if you are watching this back on the replay, hey, I'm Sarah. I've been gone for a couple weeks, so yeah, I appreciate you coming back and hanging out again. Let's see. Just a usual live. If you haven't been here before, I just kind of chat and answer comments. And so if you want to read the comments, there should be a way to turn that on so you can actually see like what other people are saying too, so it can be more interesting. But we'll wait a minute for a few people to show up. But just some, hi Chip. Hi, Dr. Joe. It's good to see you. I am back from my trips, so I have seen the beach and the mountains, and I am very happy. Hey, Minutemen, I'm good. Yeah, I hope you're doing well too. Hi, John. For anyone who's new, hi, I'm Sarah, and this is a place for people who are questioning their faith or deconstructing their faith. Hi, Jim. Let's see, a little background about me. I grew up Protestant, kind of evangelical-ish, and I started questioning my faith in my mid-20s. Chip, you cannot put ketchup on hot dogs. Listen, I am originally from the Chicago area. Like, I would be run out of town if I put ketchup on hot dogs. You're not supposed to do it. You just don't do it. Hi, Michelle. It's good to see you. Thank you, Pan. I appreciate it. No ketchup on hot dogs. Hi, Drums. I'm in the US. Hi, Danny. Okay, it's time to filter the comments. We've arrived already. Let's see if this works. Hooray! Hi, NC. Actually, I'm not hating on Jesus. Hey, Eddie. Hi, Spooky. Are you saying you don't believe in God anymore? That is true. I don't believe in God anymore. Thanks, David. Hope you're having a great day too. Why don't I believe any longer? So I do have a longer video in my FAQ playlist. Okay, I thought I filtered this. We are still getting some wild messages. Let me try this. Should be a little better. Yeah, it's definitely different than Justin's vibes, although some of them, the rude comments I get are definitely a different flavor than the rude comments Justin gets. But yeah, sorry. The reason I don't believe anymore is a long answer. I just stopped being convinced that it was true. And I do have in my FAQ playlist, I do have like the longer version of that answer. Yeah, Jim, YouTube seems to attract some wild comments. I'll say that. So that's why I have to filter it to subscribers only comments, because then I don't get as many really inappropriate ones. Thanks, man. Thanks, NC, that you'll check that out before you judge me. That's sort of like a backhanded compliment, I guess. Hey, Jimmy. Welcome. Good. You should, Minutemen. uh, yeah, Jimmy, I've been on vacation, so I will be back on YouTube more frequently as well. So yeah, my schedule will be more regular now. Man, hitting that 1 minute filter really did it. That was a lot of wild comments previously. Yeah, so let's see. Hi. If you saw like the little tagline, I talk about hell and why you don't deserve hell a lot, because I think that living your life believing that you're that awful genuinely has an effect on you. Yeah, it is, Michelle, I know. Hi, Jake. Why won't Justin listen to reason? He likes to be obstinate, that is why. Hi, Power. Yes, John, the internet is certainly full of people making inappropriate comments, but that doesn't mean we have to tolerate it when people do. Apostate, hello. Chip says, do you still occasionally get surprised by some aspect of faith that you haven't deconstructed yet? Yeah, that's a good one. Actually, I just posted a video on TikTok about this like an hour ago, so it's fresh in my mind, but I still have a hard time getting angry. Like, I still associate that if I'm angry with someone, that I'm doing something wrong, that I need to still rearrange my brain in a way to be more compassionate and never be angry with anyone ever. And I don't think that's healthy. Like, I think sometimes people do things in which it's completely normal and healthy to be angry about it. So I'm still deconstructing that, I think. Oh, good morning from India. Hello. Yeah, Japan, it is true that faith can be used to justify anything. Goodman says, I believe in God, but I don't believe in hell. Yeah, I think that's actually true of a lot of people. And I think that's probably a healthier place to be, just with how horrible the idea of hell is. Oh, that's an interesting one. Apostate Sister says, curious if you find yourself deferring to men even when you know you are right. Oh, I need to think about that one. I'm not sure. Can Best, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Can Best says, hey there, you're doing a great job. Don't let the attackers get to you. Means you're on the right track. Thank you. Apostate, though, to answer your question, I think something that, even though I was in like a conservative evangelical environment, I actually was always pretty outspoken and kind of sassy about my faith. Like, I always knew that I had studied the most, and I knew more than the boys did when I was a kid, and I had a really hard time accepting that men should be in authority because I knew that I knew better than most of them. So maybe was one area that I was not a good Christian. Hi, bud. Hey Tash, yeah, a lot of the Tash asks, are we just talking about faith and being skeptical of it? So me personally, I used to be an evangelical Christian, but people are joining from, all different types of faith or leaving different types of faith. So yeah, all is welcome. Hi from Scotland. Hello. Oh, from Egypt. Hi, hi. Oh, from South Korea. Well, hello. Yeah, the whole teaching that, the man should be over a woman. And I grew up in a church, where women were not allowed to preach, not allowed to be in leadership positions, and it never sat well with me. I never came to a really good place about it. Oh, hello from the Philippines. Yeah, MJ, I know it says that. But again, I just couldn't make sense of it. The woman needs men's help. I think the men need the women's help quite a bit. Oh, that's an interesting question. Vito says, what if God exists, but the afterlife doesn't? Gosh, I think that's such a good question for Christians. And actually, there was this book that I used to love when I was a Christian. And a line in it, like, would you still follow Jesus if there was no afterlife? And I think that's important for Christians to answer too. Hey, Matthew. Hey, Tupac. Oh, no, you're lost in southern New Hampshire. I'm so sorry. In New Zealand, so many fun places. Yeah, Michelle says, I often revert to thinking I might be in trouble with God when I get angry at others and don't want to forgive them. Yeah, you feel like, yeah, that sensation that like being angry at someone means you're doing something wrong. That sucks. It's, yeah, and I definitely still struggle being angry with people. Oh, from Wales and Brazil? Hi, Eric. Welcome. So, the short answer to your question of why did you deconstruct is eventually I just stopped being convinced that it was true. But it was a long process. Hell had something to do with it. The inerrancy of the Bible was an issue. And, but I do have a video in my FAQ playlist that gives you like the longer answer to that. Yeah, MJ says, also, heaven sounds like hell when you have no free will, must worship and praise forever, and be without loved ones. It's interesting. I stopped believing, and when I stopped believing, my bigger issue was with hell. But after I stopped believing, thinking more about what I was taught about heaven, um, man, that has so many issues too. Hi, Paul. Goodman, I mean, I agree. I don't think hell exists, but certainly many people do. Yeah, the people you would see in heaven could be interesting. I agree. I'm good, Paul. Tash says, I used to say that I would have to be a bit delusional to believe in Christianity wholeheartedly. Yeah, I mean, maybe I really was a bit delusional because I did believe in it wholeheartedly when I did believe. No, Goodman, it wasn't because I met the wrong Christians. That's not why. Yeah, Lord says, even if hell existed, why would anyone deserve it? For all the conversations that I have with Christians about a variety of things, I get so much anger and frustration from them when I suggest that there may not be a hell. And I think that there is this sense of, even beyond justice, of like vengeance, that there are many people who think there has to be a hell because we need to punish the bad people. And kind of taking that away from some people is upsetting to them. Do I believe in God? Not any longer, no. Well, Tash, I'm so glad it was helpful for you, even just for a little bit. So thanks for coming. Corey, you are you just being condescending? Do you think it's possible that Jesus died for your sins? No. I think it's possible that Jesus was a human. Banana Republic says, what about all the countless NDE witnesses who have seen eerily similar versions of hell and heaven? Well, the problem is that there are so many other NDEs that describe neither hell or heaven, but a totally different kind of place. So why should I give credence to the NDEs that describe what you expect, and why should I ignore all the NDEs that contradict what you expect to see? Yeah, to your point, MJ, the idea that Jesus was only gone for a day and a half is something I didn't even think through. I think until after I left that. I always thought he was like, he was dead for 3 days, but he wasn't. It was a day and a half. Hi, Eli. It's not even a full weekend. QJ says, is being atheist a choice? I actually don't think it is. No. I did not choose to stop believing. It was much more something that happened to me. The relevance of the length of time. Oh, just that I always thought of it as 3 days, but it isn't. Yeah, if you're interested in why I no longer believe, I have a video in my FAQ playlist that like gives you the whole backstory. Do I have any pets? I certainly do. I think they both put themselves to bed though. Does atheism bring on nihilism? It can, but not automatically. Like, I don't consider myself a nihilist. Hi from Spain. Oh, you have 4 hamsters. I have a dog and 2 bunnies and some fish. Do you ever have moments where you question not believing? No, I honestly don't. I am MacGyver. If you think me doing this live is evangelizing my religion, I think you don't understand what this live is or what the definition of religion is. Hey, Em. Well, thanks, Eli. Welcome, Michael. JC says, being an atheist, how can nothing come from nothing? I don't think there ever was nothing, if that helps. Did I study all of the religions? I did not. No, like all of my knowledge of how to find God and talk to God, believe it or not, we are that all was tied to the Bible for me. And so once I stopped believing the Bible was true, I just stopped believing in a God. And so if there is some other type of God that's out there, Jesus Christ. You know, I don't know anything about it. Hi from Croatia. What a strange question. Banana says, will you ever be willing to forgive those who have wronged you? Why is it you think I haven't forgiven people? Like, what a strange question. Samwise said, hey, it's been a minute. Did you ever replace your extension cord? I did. Look at this brand new thing that I bought because you all gave me super chats. So yes, and I threw out the old one because it actually was dangerous. So thank you very much to my friends. I did get a new extension cord. Ah. Thanks, friends. Yay. I can show you one of the bunnies when she hops in here. If she doesn't come out here in another like 10 minutes, we'll go find her. Outlaw says, so you're an atheist. If so, where did creation come from? So you using the word creation, I mean, that is a religious rather than a scientific word. So when you say creation, are you referring to the earth or the universe or something else? Does eternal oblivion bother you? Sometimes. I mean, and the way I think of it, like, I don't think of it as eternal oblivion because that almost sounds like you would be experiencing something. But yeah, I think of it as just not existing. And sometimes I'm okay with it and sometimes I'm not, honestly. Thanks, Daniel. I'm in the US. Oh, John, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. John said, I enjoyed your Healing Through Movement guide and did have a couple of recommendations. Yes, you absolutely can email me. Let's see. John, are you also on TikTok? That is going to be the easiest way to connect. I would love your suggestions, truly and sincerely. And for anyone who doesn't know what I'm talking about, I created, I'm a physiologist by trade, like that's my actual job with an emphasis on exercise. So I created like a beginning exercise guide with an emphasis on mental health. And the link to that is in my bio here. So that's available for anyone who wants to check it out. Hi, Spark. Did your church ever go over to Exodus 21, Leviticus 25, Numbers 31, etc.? You know, I don't remember hearing any sermons about it. That's not to say there never were, but I don't remember them. All of those things were things I found on my own. Q says, what is the objective of your channel? So the objective of my channel is to be a place for people who are in that process of deconstructing and to find a new community, to find support. You know, when you start to question your beliefs, and particularly, you know, if you are someone who your whole community, your whole social support is tied into your religion, when you start to question that, it's incredibly lonely and isolating, and it's really painful. And so when I went through it, I had to go through it all alone. Like I had no one to talk to about it. And I don't want that for people. I want people to be supported. Sorry, one sec. I have to plug in my phone because, oh, there we go. Okay, that's better. This is an interesting comment. Bryce says, I think the conversation that is a bridge between religious-minded and scientifically minded people is whether we have is of free will and whether we have it or not, and the definitions of each word. Yeah, I mean, free will is it's an interesting concept because it includes things like neuroscience, psychology, but then philosophy and then religion. So yeah, I agree. I think that's such an interesting intersection between all of those areas. Hi, Beth. Did your Christian friends not respect your decision? Oh, that's a hard one to answer. So first, it wasn't even a decision. Like I didn't want to stop believing. Like it was something that happened to me. It wasn't something I chose. And my friends were still always kind. Like what they weren't ever mean about it or anything, but it got to a point where all of our conversations were just them trying to convince me to come back. And at some point, like you can't have a friendship that way. You feel like a project instead of an actual friend. And so most of my relationships just ended up kind of dissolving because we couldn't even really be friends anymore. My ilk? Sure, banana. Raging says, I don't understand how Christians can defend God condoning slavery or commanding genocide in the Bible. I mean, I can tell you the common responses that I get. Some of it is like the words don't mean words kind of defense, where no, it wasn't really slavery. It was something different. It was just indentured servitude. Sometimes the defense is that, well, it was a different time back then, and everyone was so evil. God couldn't just tell him to stop slavery. He had to like slowly whittle it down and put some constraints on it because everyone was so much worse, which I think is a terrible argument. Um, and then, when it comes to like the genocide, a lot of times the argument is that, well, people deserved it, which is a wild argument, but that's what a lot of it boils down to, unfortunately. Hidak says, are you not going to explore other religions just because of Christianity? So I think the problem I have exploring other religions is I am not convinced that anything supernatural exists at all. And so, I could explore other religions from an academic perspective or even from like I think certain spiritual practices can be really healthy. But I would first have to be convinced that something supernatural or divine existed. And then it would make sense to me to go dive into how do I find it? What is it? But since I don't think that there's anything out there, I just haven't really pursued other religions because it doesn't seem like it's real. Corey, honey, this is not the place where I think what you're defining as true discourse. We are not here to convert other people to any religion. I'm not trying to convert you to my way of thinking. This isn't actually a debate space. If you want some of that, you can go find Justin over at Deconstruction Zone, but also, you can comment on my videos and we can talk that way, but these lives are not for that. Have I ever read The Case for Christ? I have. What are your credentials? So when it comes to religion, I have my only academic credential is attending a Bible college. So I do not expect you to believe, I don't know. I don't need you to think the way that I think. I'm not trying to convince you to think a certain way. I don't ever claim to be an expert in philosophy or theology. I have credentials in a different area, but nothing related to this. So yeah, I'm just here to have a place of support for people who need it. So then how are you a Christian? I'm not. I used to be, but I'm not any longer. Samwise says, I've already deconstructed from religion, so do I have to leave? Nope. You're very welcome to stay. Hmm. Your daddy says, the book of Job straight killed me. How can that be perceived as we are no more than gambling chips between God and the devil? Yeah, the book of Job is terrible. And it's surprising how many Christians will come on my lives and tell me that if I am having doubts, I should go read the book of Job to make me want to believe in God again. It's awful. Do you believe humans have free will as an agnostic atheist? It truly depends on how you are defining that term. I do think a lot of our actions and our choices are sort of automated by our brain function. It also does experientially feel like we are making choices. So I have a complicated view on it, honestly. Do you believe in fate or free will? Well, maybe neither. I don't believe in fate at all. Bryce says, it's crazy. No matter how nice or generous Christians may seem, they ultimately belittle your beliefs and think you will burn forever or be annihilated while they will enjoy eternity. I think what's really difficult, especially in American evangelical Christianity, is if you are an evangelical Christian and other types of Christianity, you are so certain that you are correct. And it's such a moral failing for you to ever question whether you're correct, that you can't imagine being wrong, and you look down on everyone who believes something else. Yeah, restaurant servers agree. The Sunday crowd is the worst. OG says, what other alternatives are there in order to communicate with the other side? I don't think we do communicate with any other side. Wyatt says, I would tell you to read Revelations, not Job. Yeah, so Revelations is an adventure in itself for sure. But, you actually have some of the same problems though, because depending on how literally you take the book of Revelation, the God in that book does some pretty awful things. I mean, he torments and kills a lot of people. Thoughts on agnostic theism? I'm an agnostic polytheist. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, whether you describe yourself as atheist or theist, I think agnostic in either direction is such a reasonable place to be. What is this channel for? This is for people who are deconstructing their faith. Oh no. Wyatt says, yes, but it's putting the fear of God in you. Oh, Wyatt, that means that your religion is based in fear. That in order to convert people to your religion, you have to terrify them by telling them, this is what my God will do to you if you don't fall in line. That's not good. This is an interesting question. Do you believe some people are inherently good or bad, or that we all have similar capabilities for good and evil? The short answer is, I think most humans want to be good, and we are all probably capable of doing some pretty bad things given the right circumstances. So I think most people aren't totally evil or perfectly good. Certainly there are some people who like genetically are born without empathy and may do enormous harm. But I think the vast majority of people want to be good, fail at being good quite a bit, and also, are good sometimes too. Well, welcome, Blaster Man. Paigey says, I'm a Christian and I will never judge another for their beliefs. The way these people in these comments are painting Christians is so bad. Aura says, what about a loving God that wants the best for us? I mean, that sounds like a really good thing. The problem that you run into with that is what you do with all the bad stuff in the world. So if there is a loving God that wants the best for us and all this bad stuff keeps happening, potentially that God is not all powerful, which maybe is okay. Maybe there's a God that up there that wants the best for us and is limited in his power. That could be a good explanation for what we see. Witness, if you want to know my backstory, it's in my FAQ playlist. Sparky says, the loving God does want the best for us, but we turn away from him and sin against him, so we are deserving of death. So the answer of free will being why there's all this terrible stuff in the world is a very incomplete kind of explanation. It makes you feel like, hey, everything bad that happens is your fault. You are to blame for all of it. And yeah, sometimes humans do bad things and then bad things happen. But a lot of bad things happen that no one has caused. Why are children born with cancer? Why do natural disasters happen? Sometimes purely accidental things happen. And so sometimes they're not because of anyone's sinful choices. And so you have to also deal with that reality as well. Why is my watch on my right hand? It's on my left hand. What do you think happens to us after death? I think nothing. I think we just cease existing. So I don't think I don't think there's any suffering. I just don't think we exist at all anymore. Thanks, Apostate. I appreciate you for coming. Sorry No says he allows bad stuff to happen to grow you. So that would be an okay explanation if we were talking about challenges, right? So going through difficult, challenging times, you can grow from that. But there are so many types of suffering that are so unnecessary. Really, I'm not going to list them, like really, really terrible things happen to people that leave them broken afterwards. And I think if a good God wanted to help you grow, that good God could figure out a way to help you grow without giving your kid cancer. Oh, hi, Checkers. Hello. I can't remember who was asking about the animals, but this is Checkers. She is my mostly sweet, sometimes sassy bunny rabbit. Are you sassy? Feeling sassy? Yes. Oh, you're sweet today. You're like a Sour Patch Kid. Sometimes sour, sometimes sweet. Joshua says non-existence seems pointless. Okay. I think it just is how it is. I'm not sure what to say to that. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciated that. Du says, have you heard of the Finders Cult? No, I haven't heard of that. Joshua says, I want to see family again. Yeah, I can understand that. I think that's totally reasonable. I just don't know that we get that. You're welcome, and easy, Nez. Thank you. Ray says, you cannot forge a blade without first heating the metal and pounding it into shape. This is what suffering does to us. So again, there are types of suffering that you might heal from and become stronger. And there are lots of types of suffering that just leave you wounded and in pain. And again, a good God who created everything and designed everything could have designed a world in which we could grow without terrible suffering. That didn't even ever have to be part of the equation. Have you heard of simulation theory? I have, yeah. Joshua says, I've always struggled with the suffering part too. Yeah, I mean, it's, if we are just describing the world as it is, yes, the world as it is has suffering. But then when you want to try to tell me that this perfect, loving God created it, well, now I have some different issues. Sorry, no says he did at one point, we broke it. But again, you are somehow abdicating God of all responsibility. When Adam and Eve ate the apple, what happened next was God's choice. God decided what their punishment would be. And God chose to somehow curse the entire planet because of their what decision. And he didn't have to make that be the consequence. He chose that. John says, I think the biggest problem with suffering is that it's inconsistent. I could be born into Jeff Bezos' family or in a country without clean water. I don't think you're being forged like a blade. I think that's fair. Josiah, my whole backstory is in my FAQ playlist on my page. Do you think Cowboys fans have free will? I don't know. Bruce says life isn't fair. I agree with that statement. But would a good and just God set it up that way, that some people are born with such advantage and some people are born into such terrible circumstances? Oop. Hi. What's up, Chex? Do you believe in free will at all? Again, it depends on what you mean by that. When most people talk about free will, they're actually not using the dictionary definition of free will. They're using another definition. So it depends. It depends on how you're defining that. I'm MacGyver says, is that true, or did we choose ways that naturally cause suffering? For example, choosing to structurally create scarcity. So this is a complicated question in that humans as a species have definitely made structures that cause suffering. But the way that especially Christianity looks at it, everything is kind of individual, right? You go to heaven or hell based on your beliefs and your choices. And the whole system of justice is supposed to be individual. Do you do good things and do you do bad things? And so when you look at systems like that, one individual born into a system of scarcity, is it just that they be essentially punished for all the other humans' choices collectively? Again, from a Christian perspective, that's hard to try and justify. From a non-religious perspective, then I say, yeah, as humans, we absolutely have created these systems of injustice. And once we realize what those systems are, it is up to us as individuals to then collectively do what we can to dismantle the unjust systems. MacGyver says, I think the judgment may not be as individual as people cast it. That aligns more with the Old Testament. I mean, the God of the Old Testament absolutely judged whole people groups. There was some individual judgment, but a lot of collective judgment, which is so different from modern Christianity. And again, especially American Christianity, where everything is about your individual relationship with God. Ray says, to blame God for all suffering is a cop-out. We have to take responsibility for most of the evil in the world. So, to be clear, Ray, I don't believe God exists at all. So I don't blame God for any suffering because I don't think he's there. I think some suffering is just unfortunately naturally occurring, and some suffering is human caused. What's complicated, though, is if you believe in a God who created everything, designed everything, and when he designed it, he knew ahead of time how it was all going to turn out. That is a huge responsibility of God. That would make God responsible for everything he created, because again, if he knew how it was going to turn out and he designed it, that makes him responsible. So my personal view is I think I am responsible for my actions. But again, if you believe in an all-powerful God who designed everything and knew ahead of time how it was all going to turn out, even before he designed it, that would make him responsible. Checkers, don't eat that. You're not supposed to eat that. You guys want to see a bad bunny? Oops. Checkers. Are you eating those directions? Naughty bunny. Peace and Joy says, the topic is interesting. I don't think any of us know until we pass away whether there's a holy creator or not. I agree with that. You know, I can tell you my best guess, but I have never died. So yeah, I can't tell anyone with certainty what will happen. Justin says, so you don't believe in God. That is correct. I used to, and I don't any longer. Jordan says, God is the most imperfect person in the world. You should know that if you went to Bible school. I mean, I'm happy to talk about all the bad things God in the Bible did, if you like. Yeah, MJ says, you can't know anything when we pass if there's nothing after. Yeah, I mean, if there's nothing after, then there's nothing, you know, and we won't be suffering any at all. So that's comforting. Chris says, someone on the other side says to ask you to never forget about the apple tree. I don't know if that's for me. I'm sorry. I don't know anything about an apple tree. Gabe says, how do you respond to people that quote the Bible at you when it's unsolicited? It depends on the context and am I in a professional setting or not? Hi, what are you doing? I'll see now she's gonna be sweet. Hi, bunny. Oh, thank you. Are you a sweet bunny now? Because you ate all my papers? Ah, it was for Panrek who put an apple in the freezer. Sure, Judah? Can you hold a bunny like a baby? They don't like to be flipped on their backs. Supra says, the remains of a huge wooden boat the size of Noah's Ark is found. No, I'm sorry. That isn't true. It's just a natural rock formation. Yeah, so Ray is saying that, yeah, God designed us, but we still have choices, and that choice is important for love. But again, if you really think through, like, if God designed me, that means he decided what my personality would be like. And he would have known, okay, if I make her a little more kind or a little more sassy or a little less inquisitive, he would know the implication of all of his decisions on what my life would be like. You know, so if you are designing something and you know the implications of all your designs, you are taking away someone's free will. And especially, you know, if you think God placed you where he placed you, you know, God picked your parents. God picked where you would be, what time period he puts you in. All of that is God choosing for you. Sorry says, I have a question. While in depression, why did reading the Bible fix me? I don't know of any placebo that lasts this long. Explain with science. So I want to be careful here in that I am a physiologist. I am not a psychologist. What I can tell you is that a placebo effect is certainly a real effect, and it isn't necessarily just transient. A placebo effect can be long lasting. Separately from that, many people do find hope in religion. Lots of religions, not just Christianity, you know, and for people who are searching for meaning and purpose, if you are feeling hopeless or lost, many different things can help with that, religion being one of them. And so the fact that, you know, you found this religion and it was helpful to you actually is not surprising to me. You know, I bet you found a purpose and a community and love, and all of those things make sense, that they would make you feel better and feel more connected and more hopeful. Hey Bye says, it's not a religion, it's a relationship. Thank you for shouting. Christians say this all the time. I'm very aware. If you worship a deity, you are in a religion. When Christians say it's not a religion, it's a relationship, for some reason they have decided that religion equals rules. And the way you practice your religion is not about rules. And that's fine. You can have a very relational religion. But if you worship a God, that is by definition a religion. Ew, CJ, what a terrible thing to say to someone. God, ugh, gross. Is Christianity a cult? I don't think overall, no. I think there are like kind of subsections within Christianity that can be cults. But as a whole, no, I don't think so. Do you think the Bible contains at least good moral lessons? Very rarely. Most of the moral lessons that you get from the Bible are terrible. You know, there are some nice things that Jesus says, but that's a pretty small percentage of the Bible. Hi, bunny. I was a Christian for 20 years. Although, yeah, I don't know why Jesus decided to curse the fig tree. Here's checkers again, because this is what we're here for, really. Look at these tiny little paws. I love them. So little. Whoops. Oh, I unplugged everything. Ah! What Jesus said is a small percentage of the Bible. Yes, that is correct. I'm gonna have to call it a night, friends. I think I'll be back on YouTube on Thursday, and then I'll be on a more regular schedule. I've been traveling, but I am back now. So I'll be back on Thursday. I also have, I do this on TikTok a lot. So, I'm sorry, did you say the fig tree was untruthful? Jeremiah, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. Look up Saint Paisios Eastern Orthodox Church. I've talked to a few people from Eastern Orthodoxy. I appreciate that. What else was I going to tell you? So come find me on TikTok. That's how you can get a hold of me. I also have in my bio a basically like an exercise for mental health guide, because that's my area of expertise. So that's in my bio too, if you are interested in that. Other than that, I will see you guys soon. So where am I on YouTube? My handle on YouTube is at Leaving Faith, and it's the same on TikTok at Leaving Faith over there too. Alrighty guys, I hope you have a great night, and I'll see you soon.